Some narratives commence in mundane instances, yet ultimately unveil the profound aspects of individuals. On that lively afternoon in a busy bank branch, events unfolded in an unexpected manner. The bank was bustling with people. The air was thick with anticipation, punctuated by the occasional grumble of discontent as the lines stretched on. Amidst the whirlwind of activity, employees darted about, striving to bring order to the tumult. Meanwhile, restless customers shifted their gazes from their watches to one another, murmuring their discontent in hushed tones. Amidst it all, Maggie Thompson, a seasoned woman, waited with a flutter of anxiety. She held an envelope tightly, her fingers quivering ever so slightly. Maggie arrived in search of clarity. What appeared to be a minor error in her account was, for her, a question of survival. But Maggie was on the brink of confronting something far more formidable than mere bureaucracy. Maggie mustered her courage and moved closer to one of the service counters. She smoothed her coat, striving for an air of confidence, yet her face revealed a flicker of uncertainty. She whispered to herself, a hint of anxiety in her voice, as her eyes darted to the envelope resting before her. At that moment, Todd Murphy, a bank employee, strolled through the room. He shot fleeting looks at the patrons and, without uttering a single word, appeared to focus solely on those who seemed to possess more wealth. For Todd Murphy, certain matters appeared to carry greater significance than the rest. Maggie, clutching her tattered envelope, was hardly on his radar that day. Maggie paused briefly, surveying her surroundings. She walked up to the counter and, before uttering a word, inhaled deeply, as if bracing herself for the challenge of being acknowledged. Maggie was unaware that the afternoon ahead would be one for the books. Her effort to express herself would culminate in a moment of profound embarrassment. Yet, something unforeseen was approaching. Maggie made her way to the service counter. The teller, Brittany Parker, a young woman bearing a weary and restless demeanor, looked up momentarily before resuming her typing on the computer. "Good afternoon, madam. How may I assist you?" Brittany inquired, her gaze fixed on the screen. Maggie shifted the envelope in her grasp and inhaled deeply. "Good afternoon. I am reaching out regarding some charges on my account that I suspect may be inaccurate." I gathered all I could to seek understanding. Brittany finally turned her attention to Maggie, yet her expression remained unyielding. She grasped the envelope with a sense of detachment and started to sift through its contents with minimal engagement. "Let us take a moment to consider. Ah, there it is. These fees are typical, ma'am," Brittany said, pushing the envelope back toward Maggie. "They're all detailed in your account agreement." Maggie, clearly disturbed, attempted to articulate her thoughts. "However, these fees are beyond my financial reach. This has to be an error. I was not made aware of these charges." Brittany let out a heavy sigh and rolled her eyes, catching the gaze of several onlookers nearby. "Perhaps you are not fully aware of the current dynamics at play. Financial institutions implement policies, resulting in automatic fees. I find myself at a standstill," Brittany replied with a voice laced in contempt. Maggie experienced a sense of diminishment. That response not only brushed aside her issue, but also left her feeling inadequate. She fought to keep the tears at bay, on the verge of spilling over. Maggie murmured, "I simply desire what is just." Brittany folded her arms and wore a subtle smirk, exuding an air of confidence as if she held the reins of the moment. "Just, madam, to steer clear of fees, it's essential to maintain a higher balance in your account. That's the way it operates." The onset of public disgrace had commenced. Nearby patrons exchanged hushed words, and Maggie sensed the intensity of their gazes upon her. Nevertheless, she endeavored to keep her poise. "This situation is unacceptable," Maggie spoke, her voice quivering. "I just want to gain a clearer understanding of what transpired." Todd Murphy was on the brink of complicating matters for Maggie. Unbeknownst to him, an unexpected observer was already taking in the entire scene. Todd Murphy, the manager, approached the counter with purposeful strides. His presence drew the eye, prompting Brittany to adjust her posture as if striving to project greater competence. "Is there an issue present?" Todd crossed his arms, shot a brief look at Maggie, and then turned his attention to Brittany. Brittany offered a hesitant smile. "No, sir, I'm merely a customer struggling to grasp the account policies." Maggie, clearly uneasy, attempted to speak up. "That's not quite right. I think there has been an error with my account. I'm simply seeking a resolution." Todd lifted his hand, interrupting her. "Madam, if you believe an error has occurred, it would have been prudent to review the contract prior to initiating your account. Clarity emerges for those who truly observe." Maggie paused, taken aback by the sharpness of Todd's voice. She inhaled deeply before crafting her reply. "I have consistently maintained my account in excellent condition. These charges seem to materialize unexpectedly. I simply seek someone to provide feedback on them." Todd emitted a short, nearly derisive chuckle. "Feedback? Madam, what exists within the system remains within the system. We refrain from evaluating anything that operates on its own." Maggie sensed the burden of humiliation grow heavier. The chill of his words was not the only issue. It was the manner in which Todd spoke, as though she held no value whatsoever. Maggie scanned the room, hoping to catch a sympathetic eye among the patrons, yet all she encountered was apathy. Some averted their eyes, while others murmured quietly to one another. Todd inclined his body toward the counter, fixing his gaze on Maggie. "If the fees are beyond your means, perhaps this bank isn't the best fit for your needs." Maggie parted her lips to reply, yet the weight of indignation and shame rendered her speechless. She gazed at the envelope in her hands, a profound sense of defeat washing over her. Todd appeared to regard the conversation as concluded. To him, Maggie was merely a bothersome patron. Yet, in that instant, an unforeseen event unfolded. A figure, clad in a casual jacket and a baseball cap, observed the scene from across the bank with keen attention. He started to move closer, taking care not to attract attention right away. Upon hearing Todd's words, he resolved to intervene. A steady and resolute voice pierced the silence of the room. "What makes you talk to her in that manner?" All at once, the bank was enveloped in silence. All gazes were fixed on the person who had uttered those words. The man who had just stepped in appeared unremarkable at first sight, yet within moments, it became clear to everyone that he was far from ordinary. The ambience within the bank was utterly hushed. Every gaze was fixed on the man who had just uttered those words. Wearing a laid-back jacket and a baseball cap, he appeared unremarkable at first sight. Yet, there was an undeniable quality in the steadiness of his voice and the manner in which he held himself that drew in the attention of all around him. Maggie gazed at the man, taken aback by the unexpected interruption. Todd Murphy pivoted with a deliberate slowness, his annoyance evident at the disruption. "And who are you to challenge the events unfolding in this place?" Todd remarked, his arms crossed and his brow knitted in thought. The man advanced a few paces, deliberately lifting his cap from his head. As his face was finally unveiled, a soft whisper rippled through the crowd. "Keanu Reeves is a fascinating figure. Indeed, that individual." The renowned actor was present at that very moment, and suddenly, everyone in the bank was aware of it. Keanu kept his composure, yet his gaze was fixed intently on Todd. "It's irrelevant who I am," Keanu stated with a serious yet composed demeanor. "What's important is the reason behind your treatment of this lady." Maggie found herself in a state of heightened astonishment. She gazed at Keanu, hardly able to fathom that a person like him was right there, standing up for her. Todd inhaled deeply, striving to keep his calm. "Mr. Reeves, I wasn't aware of your presence here. However, I must emphasize that this matter does not concern you. This bank has established policies, and this individual is not fulfilling the necessary criteria." Keanu offered a subtle, ironic smile. "Policies?" he inquired, tilting his head just a bit. "Or a reason to belittle someone who's merely attempting to address an issue?" Keanu exuded an undeniable charm. Even Brittany, who had appeared self-assured moments ago, now cast a wary glance at Todd, anticipating his words to make sense of the predicament. Keanu faced Maggie, his voice gentle and calm. "Excuse me, could you please clarify what the issue is?" Could you please provide me with an update on the situation? Maggie paused for a moment, then reluctantly passed the envelope to Keanu. He handled it with caution and started to scrutinize the papers within. After a brief moment, he raised his gaze to Todd. "This is an error," Keanu remarked. "These charges have no place here. You're going to address this immediately." Todd tried to make his point, but Keanu gestured for silence, interrupting him. "If this is an error, you will rectify it. If it isn't, the consequences will be far more severe for you." The bank was taken aback. It was a surprise to see someone like Keanu Reeves take such a direct role. However, he still had more to say. Keanu set the envelope down on the counter, locking eyes with Todd in a steady, unwavering manner. "I need you to look over this right away, and I won't be going anywhere until all issues are addressed." Todd found himself at a loss for words, unaware that Keanu was only starting to piece together a puzzle far more significant than a mere mistake in Maggie's account. Todd Murphy, clearly uneasy, fiddled with the collar of his shirt and cast a wary look at Brittany. She appeared equally bewildered as he was, at a loss for words. However, Keanu was not inclined to wait. Keanu inclined a bit toward the counter, embodying his trademark serene presence. "This isn't merely a trivial error we're discussing, is it? We're discussing the manner in which you are treating a customer who merits respect. From my observations, it's evident that this is noticeably absent." Brittany attempted to shatter the stillness, her voice quivering just a bit. "Mr. Reeves, perhaps you are not fully aware of how the system operates. We adhere to rigorous standards." Keanu lifted his hand once more, interrupting her with a courteous yet assertive gesture. "Rigid protocols?" he inquired. "I recognize that these fees are entirely arbitrary, and I am aware that you have the authority to amend them." Maggie, positioned next to him, intertwined her fingers, her mind racing with disbelief at the scene before her. Keanu gazed at her, his smile radiating warmth and comfort. "Rest assured, we will resolve this matter." All eyes in the bank were fixed on the unfolding scene, as both customers and staff stood in utter silence. All eyes were fixed in anticipation of the unfolding events. Keanu retrieved the envelope and presented the documents to Todd. He held up the documents and asked, "These statements indicate that the charges began 2 months ago, right?" Keanu gazed at Maggie, who gave a subtle nod. "Indeed," she responded gently. Keanu glanced over his shoulder at Todd. "Can you explain why these maintenance fees have increased threefold? It seems there isn't any valid justification present." Todd began to articulate his thoughts, yet Keanu cut him off once more. "Consider your response thoughtfully, as this may be more than just a simple error. If that's the case, you and everyone present could find yourselves facing a significantly larger issue." The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. The staff, once appearing apathetic, now displayed clear signs of anxiety. Todd realized he could no longer evade the issue at hand. Todd took a deep breath and retreated a step. "I must take a moment to examine this within the system," he hesitated. Keanu folded his arms, fixing a steady gaze on Todd. "Begin now," Maggie observed, her astonishment palpable, as Todd hurried to the computer and started typing with fervor. Brittany struggled to maintain her composure, her anxiety evident in every step. While Todd examined the account, Keanu stood resolutely beside Maggie. What once appeared to be a mere oversight was starting to uncover layers of complexity beneath the surface. Todd rose from his chair, beads of sweat glistening on his forehead. "Mr. Reeves, there seems to be an issue here," he remarked with uncertainty. Keanu inclined his body just a touch. "In what way is it incorrect?" Todd looked at Maggie, then shifted his gaze to Keanu, before finally conceding that these charges appeared to have been applied to several accounts, primarily those of elderly customers. The silence in the room deepened. Keanu gently shook his head, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. "That's not an error, that's a plan." Maggie was not the sole victim, and Keanu realized he was merely beginning to grasp the extent of this problem. Keanu stood on the brink of revealing a truth that surpassed his wildest expectations. Todd, engulfed in a whirlwind of anxiety, frantically sought an escape route. Yet there was no way out. Todd Murphy appeared deeply unsettled. He anxiously adjusted his tie, attempting to articulate the situation to Keanu, who held his gaze unwaveringly, standing his ground with resolve. "Mr. Reeves, I assure you, this was a mistake in the system," Todd stuttered, his voice quaking. "We didn't intend for it to happen." Keanu squinted, folding his arms across his chest. "Is there a problem with the system? How handy. What is the reason these errors seem to impact only accounts belonging to the elderly? Do you really believe we wouldn't see it?" Maggie gazed at Todd, her frustration unmistakable. At last, she gathered the strength to voice her thoughts. "Am I really not the only one? How many individuals have you deceived?" It was evident to all present in the bank that Todd lacked a persuasive rationale. Brittany, standing beside him, appeared increasingly anxious, as though she sensed that something significant was on the verge of being revealed. Todd attempted to reply, but his voice wavered. I will look into this matter. I'm going to require additional time to work through this." Keanu advanced, resting his hands on the counter. "Your time has run out. It's time to reveal the truth." Keanu glanced at Todd, who was clearly in a state of distress. "What is the number of individuals impacted by this? Speak honestly." Todd swallowed hard and cast a fleeting look at Brittany, who promptly turned her gaze away. I have some doubts. Perhaps countless." Todd's confession hit with explosive impact. Maggie wasn't the only one. Numerous other individuals suffered as well. Keanu understood that it was time to make a move. Keanu took out his phone and started capturing a video. What you're witnessing is a bank manager confessing that his institution has been imposing unfair fees on elderly clients to enhance profits. As he directs the camera towards Todd and Brittany, "This situation is intolerable, and we will ensure that the truth is brought to light for all to see." Todd lifted his hands, filled with desperation. "Hold on, I kindly ask you not to proceed with that. This can be resolved. I can resolve it immediately." Keanu lowered the phone slightly, yet his tone held a steady resolve. "Can it be repaired? This goes beyond merely giving back the funds. This concerns fairness. Is an apology truly sufficient?" Todd gazed at Keanu, beads of sweat cascading down his forehead. "What is it that you seek from me?" Keanu leaned in just a bit, his gaze firmly meeting Todd's. "I urge you to rectify this situation for everyone impacted, and I want the authorities to fully understand what transpired here." At that instant, Todd understood that escape was impossible. He nodded, accepting the situation, as Keanu remained steadfast, committed to guaranteeing that everyone was treated with the respect and justice they rightfully deserved. After several hours, the bank issued an official statement detailing significant transformations. Todd and Brittany were dismissed from their roles, prompting a comprehensive audit to uncover all accounts impacted by the unfair charges. Maggie, positioned next to Keanu, was offered more than mere words of regret. She received full reimbursement for her lost funds, in addition to extra compensation for the difficulties she had endured. "Mrs. Thompson, we deeply regret this unfortunate situation on behalf of the bank," a visibly embarrassed bank representative stated. "We are committed to correcting this immediately." Maggie gazed at Keanu, her eyes brimming with tears. "I could never have achieved this by myself. I appreciate your faith in me." Keanu gave a faint smile. "This experience should never have been yours to endure. However, at this point, the focus extends beyond just yourself. We are assisting numerous others who have also faced injustice." As Maggie exited the bank, there was a noticeable change in her demeanor. She remained modest, yet a fresh glimmer of hope shone brightly in her eyes. Keanu, positioned next to her, surveyed the other patrons, who stood in quiet anticipation, visibly affected by the scene they had just observed. Keanu faced the audience and articulated his words with precision. "Always remember that your value is immeasurable. Regardless of age, financial status, or life circumstances, every individual is entitled to dignity and respect. And above all, always stand up for what is just." Keanu's voice resonated in the space, drawing enthusiastic applause from patrons who had previously appeared uninterested. He offered Maggie a subtle wave farewell and exited the bank, departing with a lesson that would linger in memory for a long time. A few days later, the footage of Keanu revealing the bank's scheme took the internet by storm, racking up millions of views. The bank underwent a comprehensive investigation, and numerous victims started to reclaim their lost savings. Maggie's narrative evolved into something greater than a mere quest for justice. It emerged as a beacon of hope for countless individuals. Only respect and justice ought to guide our actions. Let this tale motivate you to embrace bravery and compassion in every situation you encounter. Did this narrative resonate with you? Spread it widely so that others can find inspiration. And let's acknowledge that respect is essential for everyone to embrace this movement of humanity.